In this video, I share major theories about differentiating instruction, and I think differentiating instruction is particularly important for secondary teachers because the content area teachers have not historically differentiated in their instruction. So as a new teacher, you need to think about ways of reaching all students in your classroom, regardless of their levels of performance and skills with reading and writing. The research based on differentiating instruction, it's derived from multiple intelligences, brain research, styles of learning. Some people are supposedly visual learners, some are hands-on learners, some like to hear, and so on. I include social constructivist theory because that's the dominant theory about how people learn, and the work comes from Vygotsky and the zone of proximal development, that you move students from one level to the next in their knowledge base by providing supports and then gradually removing the supports, and that all happens in the zone of proximal development. Schema theory by Richard Anderson and many others shows that a student's prior knowledge has great impact on what they learn. The more knowledge they have, the more they bring to a text or to your lesson, and the easier or the more difficult it becomes for them to process the text and lesson. And Tomlinson is the big name on differentiated instruction. About 15 years ago, there was an article called One Size Fits All. It was in the title, I forget the exact title, but the researcher was Maria Reyes, I believe, and she argued that in multicultural, multi-ethnic classrooms, one size fits all is not appropriate, and that we need to have different ways of reaching the students in our classes. So you could differentiate content, you could differentiate process, you could differentiate outcome. Those are the three general ways. In terms of content, here most people refer to the text students read, the videos, the level of complexity, and so on. So if you have, some students have difficulty reading the classroom text, well, what kinds of materials are you going to give them so that they can study at home, whether it be a podcast, screencast, or a text that's written at a less difficult level. You could differentiate the process. So, in a traditional content area classroom, to teach your lectures, students take notes. But maybe you can, to support students with disabilities or students who are struggling in the reading, perhaps you would have individualized small group instruction. Maybe you provide more scaffolding, more visuals, and even differentiated instruction also applies to students who are high achievers, and so you could challenge your more advanced students, all right? And then what do you do to adjust your instruction when students aren't learning? So process really means instructional supports and plan. And then the outcome. The outcome is what students produce. In almost all cases, you want students to learn the same, regardless of their struggling readers or if they have disabilities. Because if you start separating the outcomes in a course, then you're going to produce, you're really establishing two different curricula. And so that's a serious question in terms of the products. And so if you want all your students to write argument essays, by having some students in your class not write them, that creates a problem. But maybe you provide supports and give them more time to get the product done. So as a teacher, you want to design projects where students will be successful. You could have them work individually in partners, small groups to produce the product. And you assess using different approaches to forms and processes. So you could, if you had them work in groups, you can assess their participation in the group. You could assess if they did an outline or a graphic organizer for the argument essay, the example I'm using, and so on. The key thing is I'd like you to know that you differentiate content, process, and outcomes. The outcome, giving students choice is great, and you need to be careful about if having some students complete a course and not produce the same product as others. So there's some references that I have for this slideshow, and I hope that was helpful and clear.